My name's Matt, and I will be talking to Andreu Mora about technology integration and future trends.
With any further ado, because I really like to jump straight into the questions, but I think I need to do like a bit of a background for yourself, because what is really interesting, you work for one of the most successful fintechs in Europe, I would say, because Adyen is a pretty successful company. You work for European Space Agency, which is interesting to send this stuff into the space.
Yep.
And you do all that stuff around your impact is on the engineering side and a lot of data, because I would say your experience is related to data, which is like kind of sexy topic right now. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, indeed.
So, man, my first question is that I really wanted to ask you: How does working in a fintech compare to working at the European Space Agency and sending the satellites in space from an engineering perspective?
Yeah, no, definitely. I would think most people would assume that there's more differences than overlaps. I think there's a lot of overlap in the process. I think one thing that it's really important is that you believe it can be done. Sometimes we just try things and it's like, no, but you have to launch something into space. You have to get something on a platform that's going to hit millions of users. You have to believe that it can be done, right? That's the first thing. I think that the trade-off between trying to innovate and reliability is very present in both industries, right? So you're trying to push the boundary somehow. At the same time, everything needs to work, right? You cannot afford a lot of mishaps. In terms of technical content, I would think that the world, especially with the introduction of the formalism around data science and machine learning, a lot of the algorithms that you basically studied in engineering careers are in the end you make them useful for a business context, right? So in this sense, there's a lot of overlap, especially coming from basically basic linear regression to more complex things like neural networks or covariance estimators and things like that. Of course, the software angle, right? Both things run on software and it needs to run well. On the flip side, though, on the differences, I could say that both of them are indeed very heavily regulated industries, right? And I think that the speed is a bit different, right? I think the aerospace industry in general has large companies, right? And they're very risk averse, right? And then large teams. And fintech, finance in general is a bit the same. And fintech is kind of like the new kid on the block that tries to do things faster, a bit more rebellious in a way, but knowing what they're doing, right?
That's an interesting thing what you're saying about the speed. Yesterday, I was talking with one guy from Switzerland, and they are making a bank for crypto, and he worked in a fintech in London, and he compared the speed, and he said fintech, or general banking in Switzerland, it's speed like that. Fintech in London, it's like that, and the fintech in crypto is out of the scale. It's insane speed of development. So
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of get how this could be sending that stuff into the space or satellites. You need to be really, really well prepared. So it makes sense from the engineering perspective. But maybe we could talk a bit about what you're doing at the Adyen and what is your role there?
Yeah, so I'm leading the department that basically do things with ML and AI, right? The way that we position what we do is basically we add automated decisioning, right, on top of our financial products. So you can think about real-time transaction processing. We run a lot, but all of the volume of Adyen runs on real-time inference endpoints of machine learning models that we have trained to assess routing and risk and optimizations techniques, authentication routes and things like that. We also do things around big data, let's say number crunching, right? So think about we need to do a lot of financial reporting. It needs to be very complete. It needs to be very accurate. It needs to run on time. That's a lot of reliability. We also run machine learning model on top of that to, for example, assess transaction monitoring, right? So that's basically the layer on which we are making our products faster and more intelligent, right? Then we have basically helping our team, the whole Adyen team, be more efficient, right? This is where we enter into things using machine learning models to monitor our stuff, or using Gen AI to basically do some workflows faster, right? And also, we are sitting on a treasure trove of data at Adyen, and we're also exploring ways where we can actually utilize this data out of purely financial products, right? I lead the engineering team of that. One thing that's a bit of an eyebrow raiser for a lot of people is that we are on-prem, right? It makes a lot of sense at our scale. I think it's important to note that cloud it's not just running on someone else's data center. It's actually the practices and how you deploy and the tech stack that you have. So everything we do is pretty much aligned with that, with like modern open source, the tech stack. And just we run everything ourselves, right? From the metal to the services to the products and applications that we have on top. And that's what we do in the team.
And what is your team structure? And the second question following with, I'm just wondering, what are your high-level objectives? What kind of objective you're getting from your leaders?
Yeah, team structure. I would say I like to call my team. I think in two dimensions, right? My team. Let's say the team I lead, right? That's of course engineer leaders. This includes managers of managers and things like that. I'm not a big fan of many layers, by the way, but basically just engineering leaders, and then I would say the other dimension is basically my peer group. I think I have an excellent relationship with my product counterparts, right? For my role in Adyen, and as well as the other leaders in the company, we take decisions together on just commercial or operational decisions around the company, right? I mean, if you run a technology company, technology has a big say, right? So it's important that we make decisions together.
And regarding the objectives, like from the high level, what kind of objectives you are getting? Like what you need to deliver as a department?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about it is that I'm not getting any. I have the autonomy to decide, right?
Lucky you.
So,
lucky.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's basically basing how you run a company out of trust, right? So I also lean a lot on that. I need people I trust. I don't need to tell them what to do, right? But of course, we have objectives. The objectives pretty much align with the verticals that I described earlier around making our product more efficient and better, around operational efficiency and discovery of new products, right? And from there on, of course, you have different granularity levels on the different areas where we are investing.
And we were talking recently about the teams, and you are a huge fan of small teams. I think a lot of people indeed are small, dedicated teams. But I really like what you said about how do you structureize, how do you set the goals, what kind of responsibility you give to your people. Maybe you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, indeed. I think we need to, as we grew up as a company, we had a lot of learnings to take, right? In general, I could say for me, I prefer smaller teams, right? And then give them autonomy to decide to run things, and it's important that we, in the leadership team, we make sure that there's an enabling. They are enabled to actually also talk to the others and communicate and align. I think I even made a mathematical model once out of this, just out of curiosity. But basically, there's a trade-off between how small your teams you want them to be, and then how many layers of management you want to have, right? At the beginning, we cannot invest a lot in okay, let's have very small teams, and then you get a lot of layers. That's also maybe not that good, right? So you also have to do something. I think the concept of a small team is really important. Reporting lines are less important, right? It's about, do you have next to you great people and not a lot of them? And are you actually having the autonomy to basically to deliver what you do best and enjoy your job? Given autonomy is not free floating either, right? You also need to have some guidance. So that's what I describe a lot to my team, between the consistency, the trade-off between the consistency and autonomy, right? Because if you have a lot of autonomy and the team is big, then things don't click, right? So you need to have some sort of consistency to make things click, but at the same time, you don't want to be prescriptive, right? Because that's very demotivating in a way.
And in your case, do you work fully remotely or in-house or hybrid, and why you choose the setup that you have?
Yeah. So in Adyen, we use hybrid, right? We do have a stance for people coming to the office. I personally agree to this. I go every day. I just draw energy from the office. We are not naive though, right? I mean, if you ask people to go to the office, it's because you're offering a better experience than what they can have at home, right? So it's important that the equation of what is my experience at the office plus commuting time needs to be better than the experience I'm getting at home, right? I think that having a very positive environment where you can really feel you're next to great people, you can co-create, you can discuss ideas with speed. Like a 5-minute conversation on the coffee or in the stairs, it's probably equivalent to a 30-minute Zoom, right? And at the same time, it's less draining, right? It's more energizing. Of course, it's important to provide an environment where people can also focus and code, right? It's not through COVID, we all work from home and we all created our nice setups, and we also allow for that, of course. I mean, I have kids, I understand the logistics of life in general, right? The logistics, right, around kids and drop off and all those is very consuming, and it's important as well to balance that work life and personal life, right?
Let's talk a bit about the AI. I think you are the right person. It's super hot topic. And, since the OpenAI, I kind of compare it to maybe this will be not the best comparison, but kind of like a similar thing. So when the JavaScript was starting, when I was starting and all the frameworks like React Native and plenty of different libraries and tools appeared on the market because it was so hot, I think 7 or 8 years ago when I was starting my company. I kind of have similar thinking with the OpenAI. Now everything is instead of JS in the end, it's with AI in the end, right? And it's really tempting for the developers, engineers to use tools and, how to create a roadmap when you have each week some updates. I'm just wondering, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think a very, very important part of it is just staying updated, right? Staying updated with everything that's going on, which is easily said than done because there's a lot going on. This field now is painting frenzy. It's you need to watch out because if you want to stay on the, in the edge, it's really, really, I would even say impossible, right? I think that for engineers, leaders, it's important to stay updated, know what the developers are and how you can use them, right? And how difficult it is to you to actually go and use them, and if there's any value at all in using them. I know, one of my mottos as an engineer is we are here to solve problems with solutions, not to find problems to the solutions we want to use, right? So I think it's important to understand, hey, what are my problems? Be honest to that, and then see how you can use, say, AI for that. In terms of crafting roadmaps, again, that understanding what is going on, how you can use that, and making sure that you have always a bit of a bandwidth to explore, right? I think it's important. And that you can track and adapt. And I think that you also have to embrace a bit of change, right? You cannot draft a plan for 3 years and stay super honest to it. You probably need to adapt at some point.
Has OpenAI and related to its tools impacted a lot what you're doing or what you plan to do?
Yeah. I think that what OpenAI did really, really well is they basically productionized and showed to the whole world how useful basically a transformer-based neural networks can be, right? BERT, GPT, these are things that have been there for years, but there's always been a bit they needed a bit of a leap to connect to the market. And when ChatGPT happened, then everyone basically freaked out, right? So they made it very obvious that this thing is useful and it's here to stay. And this is where you see all these investments going there. We were already connected to that, so for us it wasn't a big of it wasn't like a big aha moment. It was more maybe we really got the memo that, hey, this is going to change now. People are going to turn up PS. And I think that for us, what is really exciting is that the spark that was set by probably OpenAI with ChatGPT and everything that's happened after, especially on the open source community, how players like Meta, Mistral, even Microsoft or Apple are putting models out there, how the community is coming up with new techniques so fast. OpenAI probably was a catalyzer of that and was standing on the shoulders of giants already, but it's been super entertaining. And the fact that we can play on that field, and it's for me, it's really, really exciting.
And from a more pragmatic perspective, I've heard recently an interview with a guy who worked for the NASA. And he was a consultant for this Armageddon movie with Bruce Willis.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's asteroid. Yeah. So it was asteroid coming to and hit and crush the whole Earth, right? So they consult the movie. And this movie has such a huge impact on the senators and the Senate in US that they created the Intergalactic Wars Department. So
Okay.
because they figured out like such an event could have like a huge impact on their GDP. So when the Texas is like out, it will
Yeah.
have like a devastating results. So like the movie kind of had the impact on the management, so to say. And I'm wondering in your case, like after OpenAI, was it like, executives said like, hey, Andrew, now you have all the money that you can imagine in the world to spend, like, or you are like laser focused, you're doing your stuff and you're simply trying new stuff with the things that you have.
Yeah, there wasn't like a FOMO moment, and I didn't have any sort of like executive knocking on my door saying like, Andreu, what are we doing about this? Oh my God, are we missing the race? Again, based on trust, they said, what are we doing? And then, you come with a very informed choice around what is our play here and what our strategy is and what are we doing to stay connected. And then just keeping doing what we're doing, right? I think in a healthy state, you should be able to balance any advancement and like bring it to your ways of working or like, the technology stack of your company without needing a major aha moment that you need to basically change completely things.
And I always like to ask questions about like what will happen in the future. So I think you saw a lot of things in the past. So I'm wondering like what should we expect in terms of the unexpected in the AI world? What are your feelings?
I think short term there's still uncertainty, right? I think that everyone is looking for say trust guardrails, right? Removing hallucinations and also like having agents basically be able to execute tasks for you. In the longer term, what would happen maybe is we'll see a lot of like office jobs being replaced by AIs, right? And or replaced, or at least they will be more entertaining and more exciting, right? So a lot of like routinary tasks probably are doing that's going to be taken care of by AIs. What I'm also very excited is to start seeing a bit of like coupling robotics to AI, right? Because that would basically also open the door to labor-intensive tasks done by AI, right? I think robotics are always there in like production lines and manufacture, but it's always around, do these tasks and do it well over and over. And now you would have some sort of AI that can decide for itself, which is, it's very exciting.
And then you tackle a very interesting topic for me personally, because I'm not sure like what answer do I have for that. So I kind of compare this revolution to industrial revolution, right? When you have like the production lines and they were full of people like assembling the cars or the stuff in the production. But from the robots area, kind of like we still have work for those people, and we still like the unemployment rate is really low. So I'm just wondering, I'm still not sure what to answer here and what is my feeling. Probably will create, extra amount of jobs for those guys or not. Like, I don't know, what is your thoughts here?
Well, I think that in general, jobs always reinvent themselves, right? I think people fear running out of jobs. I don't think we should do that. I think we just change. There's always something to do. But yeah, we don't have people going around like, setting up little fires to just light up the street at night, right? But we still have people, of course. We do have jobs that in some way we could automate some tasks and make more exciting, right? I guess we'll see. For the moment, we are all trying to learn. Even OpenAI has admitted that they don't even understand their AI. So we are trying to learn how to harness that and to make it useful for us as a society.
And during our recent talk, you mentioned really interesting term that caught my attention is measuring your happiness. The concept of measuring your happiness. Maybe you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, it's just something that I try to live by and also lead by, which is basically, try to optimize your life for happiness, right? That's how you should measure success. Not so much, money or status or whatever. It's about, how are you going to be the happiest? And maybe from there on, you can actually have some obvious choices. Maybe that promotion is not for you, or maybe that, anything. It's just shines a different light on things. And what I find extremely interesting is how we all think we are very special individuals. At the end of the day, we are so predictable as human beings, and probably whatever you're experiencing, your emotions in your like life has been experienced over and over by many other human beings before, and has been studied and researched, and that this research today is available thanks to the internet and things like that. And I really love just understanding all these patterns and then try to apply them for my own personal life and my day-to-day work and leadership style. So it's the concept of happiness is, I find it extremely interesting, and I would say I'm a happier person since I do that, for sure.
Good to hear that. And the question I really like to ask is about the hard times that you have in your career, because we always learn from those kind of moments. And I'm just wondering, what was the hardest or one of the hardest moments in your entire career, and what lessons did you learn from it?
I think the hardest point in my career was when I was trying to change fields, right? So the field, the changing from aerospace, or coming from like, private companies, then ESA, and then say like, okay, look, now the world has changed. There's a world where like people have clouds and they have a lot of data, and we have put a framework around all these algorithms that I know well, but probably I don't know still the jargon. It wasn't easy. It took me a while to actually change that. I got a lot of no's. I got a lot of like rejection. I had to invent myself. I had to learn a lot of things. But you persist. You grow a bit of elephant skin. You understand failure. You stand up. Another no, you go. And at some point, I found things just click. And from there on, it's been, very exciting, very successful, I would say, in terms of happiness. And probably a lesson that is, hard to swallow, but probably a gift for life.
Right. And like the biggest challenges for you, 2024, any pain points related to engineering or product delivery?
Yeah, I think you touched upon that a little earlier, right? Is around we have expectations towards the market. We need to deliver. At the same time, we need to stay tuned to the day, to the world. So how can we balance that trade-off between the exploration and exploitation, right? Let's execute on the tasks that we have to do, but also let's stay updated. Let's also experiment. Let's also learn, right? I think that there's no recipe for that. I think it's important to infuse projects with certain bandwidth to explore and to try new things, while at the same time we make sure that we deliver what that we have said we'll deliver, right? I think it's quite a trade-off to do, yeah.
And the last question that I'm asking all of my guests, can you recommend any books, I don't know, resources, conferences that have been particularly helpful to you as a leader?
Yeah, I think my favorite book series probably is so I really like two themes, science fiction and biographies. And I like science fiction, especially during the Cold War, I think in 60s, 70s, 80s maybe. And probably my favorite one in that point is like, as a classic, is the Foundation series by Asimov. I really love the strategic thinking, the long-term arcs. Probably I like more the prequels and then the first book. So that's number 4 in the sequel, but it was the first one written. They're extremely clever, like all the maneuvering and all the, the political framework exposed there, psychohistory and all that. And then another book that I really enjoyed, it was very counterintuitive, is the biography of Anthony Kiedis, who is the singer of Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
I love music, right? I also play music myself, and then I think that biography is really eye-opening in the light of course, music, California in the 80s and 90s, but especially the life seen through a on paper successful person that actually is very troubled because he was a drug addict. And then back to the concept of happiness, right? Be grateful about what you have. So that was really interesting. And for podcasts, I like a lot. There's a podcast I like a lot, which is like just skipping, like very entertaining. It's called Planet Money. It's very short. It's about describing economy things for like in a very like LI5, like, but very, very entertaining. Like, I don't know, like the GameStop saga and things like that. I like that. And then I could say from leadership podcasts, I trim episodes. I have a bunch of them, and then I actually look more who is being interviewed and like what whether I know the person or actually they're talking about things that resonate with me.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Andrea, for all the recommendations and all your tips.
Of course. Thanks. Been a pleasure.